Since the war in Israel started, we heard a lot of claims about stolen lands and who did what to whom, and basically a lot of propaganda. Now in this video, I'm going to explain exactly what was the origin of the conflict between the Palestinians and the Israelis, who stole whose land, how it all played out, so you can decide for yourself. I'm not taking sides in this, I'm giving you the objective analysis. So about 3,000 years ago, the land that is currently called Israel was the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judea. Both Jews, by the way. So the question, who was here first? It's Jews. No doubt it's historically proven 3,000 years ago. But wait. It's not Israeli propaganda. There's a flip side to this. So before you get annoyed, hear me out. There's the flip side. It doesn't end there. So for the next 1,000 years, the land was in chaos and it was conquered multiple times, eventually exiling all the Jews or most of the Jews from that land. Now, about 650, a long time ago, 650, the Arabic population started to appear on that land. Mainly for now is Jordan and now is Egypt, but from those regions, they started to migrate to what is now Israel. And they lived there ever since. So the Arabs live in what is now Israel since 650, a long ass time. So what do we know? Number one, the Jews were here first, 3,000 years ago, fact. We also know that the Arabs were here since 650, a long ass time ago, fact. So both sides were here a long ass time ago. That's fact. Now, this whole land eventually went into the control of the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire is what is now Turkey, pretty much, what's left of it. And the rule of the Ottoman Empire essentially lasted for a long ass time. Now, from 1500 to the late 1800s, the Arab population in that land was governed, ruled, and basically pretty much owned by the Ottoman Empire. The Ottomans were the owners of the land, and the Arabic people were basically either slaves or, just tenants, so to speak. It was never their land. It was the Ottoman land. At the late 1800s, as the Jews in Europe started suffering from anti-Semitism, they started to migrate back into the land of Israel, which was historically their home. By the early 1900s, there were plenty of Jews living alongside the Arabs. As World War I rolled around, the British wanted some help fighting off the Ottoman Empire from the land that is now called Israel. And they've enlisted both the Arabs and the Jews to fight alongside them to kick the Ottomans' butt. And they promised both the entire land that is now the country of Israel. So basically, the British promised both the Arabs and the Israelis the same country, just to get them to do what they want. They basically played them. Now, in 1917, the Ottoman Empire was defeated, the British took over, but then they had some explaining to do. The Arabs were like, yo, dude, where's our country? The Jews were like, yo, dude, where's our country? Now, they promised both the same freaking country. They sold them the same freaking house. So they got mad. They got mad at the British. They got mad at each other. And there was a lot of conflict between the Arabic population and the Jewish population. Now, each side has their own version of how these conflicts started and who did what to whom. Let's stay out of this for a second so we can stay on the track, on the timeline. So while this whole thing was going on, at some point, the British had enough. World War II just ended. They had no more desire or ability to be an empire anymore. And essentially, they gave this problem to the United Nations to solve. And the United Nations basically said, look, we're going to split this country basically in half. And the Arabs didn't like that because they thought they were being scammed, because they basically said, well, look, it's our land. The entire thing is our land. We shouldn't have to give half of it away. We not only lived here since 650, the British promised this to us. And the Jews were like, well, look, we lived here 3,000 years ago, and also the British promised this to us, so let's take each their half and go our merry way. So Israel accepts the offer from the United Nations to take half of the country in 1948 and forms the State of Israel. The Arabic population says, no, we do not accept the deal. They rejected the deal and go on the offensive, attacking the State of Israel in 1948. That is now called the Liberation War of 1948 of Israel. So Israel wins that war and takes the land that the Arabic population basically said, we don't want that deal. They rejected the deal. Israel wins. Israel takes the whole land. Now, a lot of the Arab population fled while this whole thing went down. There's a lot of debate whether they were forced out or fled on their own because they feared retaliation, whatever the case may be. I'm not going to that argument. That's between the two sides to figure out how to solve this crap. But a lot of the population left in that time. So basically what ended up happening is now, post-1948, Israel holds all of the land, the part that they got from the UN, the part that the Arabic population rejected, except two parts, which is Gaza and what is now the West Bank. The West Bank is now held by Jordan. Gaza is held by Egypt. And for 20 years, things are pretty chill. In 1967, all the Arabic countries decide to basically go all out on Israel, and Israel somehow beats them. Don't ask me how, within a few days. So at that point, Israel basically takes the West Bank, Gaza, and the Sinai Peninsula from the Egyptians. And then again in 1973, the same thing happens. This time Israel struggles a little bit, almost loses, but ends up winning. And then there was a deal that was done between Israel and the Egyptians in which they made peace and gave the Egyptians back the Sinai Peninsula, evicting Israelis who actually moved there already. But it's a whole different story. Gaza stayed under Israeli administrative rule, and same thing for the West Bank. And that birthed, eventually, the Palestinian Authority, which was supposed to rule both, and was supposed to be the first stage to a Palestinian country and a two-country solution. But as everybody knows, the Palestinian Authority lost grip of the Gaza Strip, and in 2006, the people there voted in Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, which went ham on Israel for the past 17 years, wreaking havoc, which made, the formation of a Palestinian country impossible and weakened the Palestinian Authority on their own West Bank because they seem like the weak party because they're not fighting actively against Israel, so it caused a whole mess. That's where we are today. Now, in the meanwhile, Israel made peace with the UAE and all the Gulf countries, and they're about to make peace with the Saudis. And obviously, Iran is not a fan of that. The Palestinians are definitely not a fan of that because, they want the Arab world to keep beefing with Israel. And that's how we got to this point. So now you can start debating from this point on. Whether you're pro-Palestine, pro-Israel, and all that stuff, you can start debating. But that's the story, historically, how it happened without any of the narratives. Enjoy the rest of your day.